Guys, it's Troll 9002. I'm the good troll. I started writing the story about a week and 5 days ago. It was just after I had 6 teeth pulled. I didn't get to finish it while on the good prescription pain pills. I think you will be able to tell the difference. The only thing I did was run spell check on this. I'm gonna just read what I put down. You guys are gonna have to make sense out of it. I hope it's what you guys wanted. I'm sorry if I left people out. Maybe next time. Here goes. It's called Take the Spoon, they said. Part 1. Okay, so Misfits and Dreamers board a rented RV called Retirement to start their trip to California for their once-in-a-lifetime vacation. Leaving from New York and driving all the way to California, the land of fruits and nuts, Bob wants to see how big the fruit can get, and Bonnie is all about the nuts. Walnuts, that is. They take off from home and hope for a good, easy trip, but little did they know they were in for an adventure they would never forget. Bob was armed with his video camera, and Bonnie was armed with the laptop and the cell phone, and off they went. Passing through Pennsylvania, and then over to Ohio. Now, so far, everything was super fine. They only stopped for gas. There was no time for pictures because Bob had a schedule he wanted to keep, and so nightfall had come, and they stopped off in Kentucky for the night at Karen's house. Thank goodness they called ahead. Karen was out with Rhonda in the booby copter shooting holes in the sky again. Poor Charlie was flying the booby copter and parked it in a place out of the way so Bob could pull in the RV. They were hoping for some rest. We all know what happens when Karen and Rhonda get together. And of course, Chris brought some steak and top shelf tea. We all know what kind of tea that was. And all night they partied with the people of Kentucky. That's right. All of Kentucky came to party at Karen's house. And so, next afternoon, when they rose from sleep, Karen hooked them up with some care packages and sent them on their way. After all, she had to get back to the booby copter, and Rhonda had to help because they were going to shoot up town again today. As they continued through Missouri, where they love company for some reason, kudos to those who got that, Bob and Bonnie take the spoon in the road, and suddenly they are lost. Bob was angry while he was driving because Bonnie wouldn't let him bring the Harrier jet, and they were lost. Bonnie wouldn't let him bring the Harrier jet because it was still in the shop from the last Kentucky party at Chris's house. Bonnie was afraid parts would fall off as it was going down the road. So anyway, a hyperactive espresso-fed crazy Junebug splattered on the window of the RV, and the guts spread all over so they couldn't see, and they had to pull over. Well, they had made it all the way to Idaho, a place known for potatoes, and you know what they say about potatoes. They have eyes. At least that's what I heard. But no one told Bob and Bonnie that before they went on vacation. So when they stopped, they cleaned the windshield off, and then it started to storm. So they decided to wait it out at the gas station where they had stopped. There was a little restaurant in there, they could have some food, just chill. Next door to the gas station was a warehouse of some kind, and it had been built in the early 1800s to house and store potatoes. And I'm not talking about the lazy people that sit on couches all day. In the early 1900s, it became a potato processing plant. And just before they had gotten there, in 2020, it was repurposed into a chip plant and then repurposed into a bakery, where they made cookies, breads, and anything you could ever want to come out of an oven that was sweet. They made the same cookies that Karen had given them before they left. The local wives' tale was that during several repurposing jobs as a potato processing plant, they picked the eyes out of the potatoes and just lobbed what they thought was trash on the floor. Never having cleaned the plant before they went out of business, and the next owner attempted to clean the potato eyes off the floor, but some of them were just stuck. So they just moved on with putting in the vats of oil and turning the building successfully, into a potato chip plant. On the final inspection line, of chips before they got bagged. The inspectors would pick out any brown chips or chips that weren't worthy enough to be in the giant bag of air. Potato chip bag. And so, having bags that were mostly air, the plant didn't last long, and so they went out of business and never cleaned up before they left. When the bakery moved in, they cleaned it top to bottom, or so they thought. But it turns out they had missed a lot of eyes and the brown tater chips on the floor. For a long time, the bakery had the best reputation for anything that came out of the oven until one day they hired a worker by the name of Kendra. Kendra was an amazing baker but didn't know how to use the machinery that was in this particular bakery. And the baker she didn't know how to use the stuff, so one day there was an explosion and cookies and cakes went flying everywhere. The cookies were in the middle of the baking cycle when it blew, and when they went flying everywhere, and a lot of them ended up falling into crevices where the potato eyes couldn't be removed and brown chips cushioned the fall. A lot of them, to which caused the cookies to squish around them instead of breaking. So the cookies were so soft that they just fell onto the brown potato chips, but they didn't break them. I'm trying to comprehend this with you guys. Okay? So, the cookies weren't. For years after the explosion, Kendra said it was caused by a superhero beaver. But people of the day, who would believe that? And they just sent her off to the nut house. No, they didn't send her to California. They sent her to the real nut house. And so for a long time before Bob and Bonnie had noticed the building, the mutant cookies had been forming and evolving and living in the bakery. They had no arms or legs yet, so all they could do was lay there and stare at the roof, which had holes in it from the explosion. Rain and sun would fall inside and all over them. Because they were mutant cookies, it didn't matter if they got wet or not. And for one reason or another, the rain that fell on this day brought down chemicals from the sky that caused the cookies to grow arms and legs. The cookies, not knowing what they had, just laid there staring until one of them just got mad and walked out. There were other cookies that didn't have eyes, but they just got up and walked out too. And fast as they went out, they got squished by cars. The rest of them that could see the sunlight got curious about what was outside, and so they just got up and walked out to check it out. They climbed up into the RV to hide from the other cars, and they just hunkered down in the RV. Not all the cookies made it out of the bakery. One day there were Girl Scouts exploring the remnants of the building when they spotted the cookies. One girl said, "Oh my gosh, those are so cute. Let's snatch them up and sell them. That's a novelty and a new flavor. Oh my God!" They took them home and showed their parents, who didn't listen or say anything about the cookies, because at the time the parents were plotting on their children to get them cloned so there wasn't so much work to be done, and to get rid of the cookies faster. If you have 50 cloned children, they'd sell cookies pretty quick. And so they did end up cloning 50 different Girl Scouts that looked just like the real Girl Scouts. The clone Scouts sold any and all cookies, including the ones with eyes and legs and arms, and they won the record for most cookies sold, and so they were invited to, you guessed it, California, for a celebration in their honor, for the record being broken in the most cookies sold ever. Back to the vacation. So, the rain moved on, but then there was this horrible tornado that came after the front, and it came within feet of the gas station that Bob and Bonnie had hunkered down in. And the tornado picked up all the cookies and water and mess, and lobbed what was left in the bakery all at once about 4 counties over into Pickleville, where everything was released from the tornado as it dissipated. The cookies fell all into the roads and into the fields and the farms. Surely it was only a matter of time before they took over. You see, when a person eats the seeing eye cookies, The cookies see how ugly or beautiful a person is. But the vodka that come from the potato part of the cookie gave the person the same ability to tell everyone how beautiful they are, even if they are ugly. We all know how vodka works, I'm sure. Top shelf Long Island iced tea, right? So with the storm over, Bob and Bonnie go back on the road. After all, they have made it to Idaho. The good news is they were no longer lost, and they never had to deal with the Girl Scouts or the cookies. Thank heavens. So leaving Idaho with a full tank of gas, snacks, and a cleaned windshield, Bob tries to tune in some music. But come on, you're in the middle of nowhere. That is when he picked up some sort of white noise, and suddenly a ghost voice comes out of nowhere and says, "The end of the world is near." Bonnie, thinking it was Bob playing a joke on her, yelled at him. Confused, Bob showed Bonnie what he did, changing the station again and back to the channel with the white noise. And again the voice said it. "The end is near." This time Bonnie was looking Bob square in the face when the voice spoke and said the same thing. Not knowing what to make of it, they thought nothing of it and kept going, glad to be out of Pickle County and into Nevada, the freaking desert as Bob called it. Once into Nevada, Bob wanted to take another spoon in the road to see where they could end up, as his schedule was already in the trash. And he let go a bit, and he got the feel for retirement. He really opened it up and became a road warrior. That would come in handy later. And they ended up, yep, you guessed it, in Las Vegas at a casino. You see, when you take spoons in the road, you get places you want to be faster, because while in the spoon, your mind is read by aliens, and you are almost morphed to where your mind is. It's not a bend in the space-time continuum, but it's a bend in your mind. And so they parked in front of the tar pits and got out to explore a little bit, take some hicks. They figured out quickly that it was too hot to be in the desert, even at night, and they climbed back into retirement and settled in for the night. In the middle of the night, Bonnie was awakened by a noise coming from the kitchen of the RV. Thinking nothing of it, she fell back to sleep. Her and Bob were all cuddled together, and they were going to sleep in. The air conditioner in the RV drew penguins, it was so cold, and they both slept very, very well. And the next afternoon they awoke from their slumber, very well rested and ready to go. They eat a little something, and Bob hops back into the driver's seat, and off they go. Bonnie was inspecting the kitchen area of the RV. That is where she heard the bump in the night. She had not noticed the amount of cookies in the fridge had grown overnight. Not thinking anything of it, she went and sat down. Now, the bump she heard go in the night was from cookies with eyes hopping up from the undercarriage of the RV into the kitchen through the pipes for the sink. Bob had run over cookies and kicked them up like mud or barnacles to a boat. These cookies were actually dangerous to some people, because these cookies, if eaten, side effects from eating cookies with eyes. You see the inside out, but when they are free, they can tell everyone about you. Whereas two potatoes within the cookies turn to vodka and give you the brave, bold mind to show your backside with ease. Hee hee. So the cookies could take over from within, but also because they had potatoes in them, they also had eyes. They produced their own form of vodka that would take over your thoughts. And that mixed with the spoon in the road was enough to end civilization. Yikes. And I want you guys to know that I actually have quotations and instructions on noise effects and sound effects in this story while I'm reading it. So you can tell getting close to the end because I'm already up to 14 and a half minutes. And so, finally, they hit California. They park the RV and carefully and prepare to settle in to start their vacation activities the next day. Off to dreamland for the night. They wake up the next morning. What's going to happen in the next morning? What's gonna happen? Is their trip gonna end? Are they going to make it to California? Will they run into the Girl Scout clones? Will the cookies take over? I don't know. We'll have to find out in the next section. Teaser, spoiler, cliffhanger. Call it what you want. Sorry, guys. Gotta split it up. We're over 15. Have a great week. See you on the next one.